Hi, my name's Daryl, and here's your Toyota news for March 13th. So Toyota dropped a bombshell just a couple of days ago. A lot of media outlets have already talked about this. They basically dropped 3 brand new battery electric vehicles on Europe. So the first one was the CHR, which is this model right here, the BZ4X, which should be all relatively familiar with. The BZ4X made its debut in America a couple of years ago. Only had like 200 horsepower, pretty lackluster, never really sold all that well in the United States, although it did sell well in other countries, as well as the Lexus RZ. So looking at the images, so this is the CHR. Not really familiar with this at all, but it's a really #1 seller almost in Europe, as well as the BZ4X. So this is what the new BZ4X sheet metal looks like. So I think that looks pretty sporty. I'm actually a fan of the BZ4X as opposed to the CHR. CHR looks a little bit more car-like to me, as opposed to more of the, the kind of the crossover that the BZ4X. But they both share probably the same drivetrains. And so if we're looking at the CHR, well, let's look at the BZ4X, the performance characteristics of it. So the cruising range of the all-wheel drive version is either 520 or 573. So let's take the 573 kilometers to miles. So that's 356 miles of range. And if we also look at the 0 to 100 or 62 acceleration, the all-wheel drive version will do it in 5.1 seconds. And if we look at the system output, it's 252 kilowatts. So if we do, that's going to give us, wow, 337 horsepower. So really exciting news about the BZ4X. I would imagine this is going to make its way to the United States, likely in the summer. I actually thought the BZ4X was dead. I assumed that the RAV4, when it's introduced, is going to have an EV model, and I figured the BZ4X was going to be gone. Perhaps the RAV4 EV makes its way to America and the BZ4X EV stays in Europe. I'm not sure. I think this kind of puts to rest, though, that the RAV4 isn't going to be an EV model. I would expect the RAV4, this is the same architecture, the TNGA architecture, and I would assume that the RAV4 would have this same drivetrain. So yeah, an EV with 337 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds would be really nice. So the other announcement was about the Lexus RZ. And this was also announced in Europe. And really cool that they show the Lexus RZ with a tent. So of course all the EVs have the ability to take the power from the batteries and typically be able to charge like a campsite or a camper. So it's kind of cool that they show this. But they have a couple of different models of the Lexus RZ. They have this new thing called the steer-by-wire system for a new driving experience. I'm gonna have to dive into that a little bit more. But the sport model, looking at the specs, the sport model is going to get 300 kilowatts. So that's going to have over 400 horsepower, which is pretty exciting, with a 0 to 60 time of 4.4 seconds. And I think the range was 450 kilometers, a little bit less, so 280 mile range. But obviously it's getting a little bit more horsepower. So I would imagine we would also see this Lexus RZ coming to the United States in summer. But a pretty sporty, pretty nice sedan that you're looking at there. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So in our next news story, a couple weeks ago, Toyota stepped in to help a battery manufacturing plant in Michigan, and they put in an order of 1.5 billion of lithium-ion batteries. So GM kind of backed out. As you know, the demand for EV vehicles in the United States has gone down quite a bit. So GM had made this investment in this battery plant, but it was a non-binding investment, and so they pulled out. And so Toyota kind of snatched up the batteries because I think, as you can tell with this story, I think Toyota has big plans for both battery electric vehicles as well as plug-in hybrid vehicles. So they could probably, even though they have a new battery manufacturing plant spinning up in North Carolina, they probably have the need for additional batteries. So they came in and not only helped out that battery plant and that community and its workers, but also helped themselves as well. In my last story, and this is kind of, I guess I would put it in the category of kind of a BS kind of a story, but I was watching Kirk Criffles. He was talking about some of the new vehicles coming to Europe and the United States for Toyota, and he just put a little teaser about a GR RAV4. So maybe this story isn't all that much out of the realm of possibilities. So there was this story on Auto Evolution, and it talked about a GR Sport RAV4 possibly coming. So there's this news outlet or YouTube channel that talked about a GR RAV4 possibly coming and having either a twin turbo 2.5 liter engine or a plug-in hybrid assembly with about 500 horsepower on tap. So yeah, check out this story on Auto Evolution just for shits and giggles. I think it's pretty interesting. I would love to see a RAV4 with 500 horsepower with the kind of that smaller crossover SUV with that much horsepower. That would be a lot of fun. But I don't think we'll see it, but I'm really interested in what Kirk Criffles has to say about this. This is Daryl with your Toyota News, and I hope to see you in the next one again very soon.